I haven't quite figured out the transition timing. I figured out how to do them. I just
well,
sitting here talking, and I'm like, no, I got
episodes in. These are the episodes that we're going to look back on in a few years when we're still doing this, and be like, oh my God, how did we suck so bad at this thing? This is a podcast. This is the Tribal Mischief podcast on the Tribal Mischief Podcast Network. Right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. It'll be a net. Can you call it a network when it's only one podcast right now?
I think what we're trying to make clear to people is this is the beginning for us. We've got a lot of ideas and a lot of plans on things that we can do and conversations we can have and things we can focus on. This is sort of step one.
Yeah. We had a conversation a couple of weeks. Go ahead.
Go for it.
I was just saying, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a group called Well Told Designs. They've been working with our friends Adam Ezra on doing some merchandise and stuff. Ethan and I have no shortage of ideas or opinions for those who know us. And one of the great things that we took away from that conversation was they were like, you guys have lots of stuff going on. Pick one. Focus on a direction. You guys have tons of great ideas, and they were really great. We really appreciate that conversation. Check out Well Told Designs, by the way, and check out Adam Ezra Group. We'll talk more about them later, I'm sure.
I hope so.
But this is the direction that we are pulling in right now. We've had some killer conversations the last few weeks.
When we decided we were going to start doing this, I knew what I wanted us, what I hoped it would do is have conversations, make sure that we were having actual conversations and not do the entire, so do you have an album coming out? Is it great?
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but the fun
but that's being done.
Yeah. And
you don't need to come listen to us to get that.
And what we care about, or what I care about really, is community, is the notion of I want to understand what the people who I care about in this community, what they're going through. What are your lives like right now? And what can I learn from that? How can I be a better community member? How can I be someone that helps make this a better, more inclusive, more representative, more caring, and more interesting community? Because
the people who only talk to the folks who agree with them, there's no color to life. You're just reading the same book over and over and over again. You're not going to learn a goddamn thing from just talking to people who agree with you.
And it might be your favorite book, but come on.
Challenge yourself. And that's really what we're trying to do. We are trying to challenge ourselves, to challenge our viewers. And thank you to all of you out there in viewer land right now. And our listeners, to challenge you to look at a different perspective. We were just talking about Randy Green from Gangsta Grass, and one of the reasons that we brought him on is because Ethan and I are two large white men, and we are awkwardly aware of that. And we said, all right, here's an amazing musician in our community. He's an MC, he's a rapper, our son, the voice of reason. He's a black man from Philadelphia. And, well, there's a perspective I couldn't possibly have.
You mean a Jewish boy from upstate New York didn't immediately,
No, it didn't overlap as much as I expected, really.
It's okay. The Scottish kid that grew up on a boat didn't really have immediate, life experience either.
I take those white privilege checklists, and I'm just like, yep. Son of a... Anybody else got a pen? I need another pen. I'm running out of ink. But we also brought him on, and he started off, and he was like, yep, he's a father, he's a small business owner, he's a musician, he's a black man, and his entire family's in law enforcement. Jesus.
And he has 2 degrees in law enforcement, and I think he has either a master's or something akin to a master's in sociology on top of it. So here's just a dude that, part of the reason I love talking to him is he cares about people. He cares about what makes you think the world works the way you think the world works.
Right.
And it was a really great conversation. And
you both had matching nerd Superman shirts, which was
yeah. We're both comic geeks.
Yep.
It was fun watching your eyes glaze over just a little bit as we jumped into it.
Well, it's one of those, okay, we've reached that point in the show. Okay. I didn't know when that point in the show was going to come up, but here we are.
It's all good.
And hell, it was a good reminder for, that we are also, you can find us here live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on twitch.tv/tribalmischief. But we're also dumping these up to YouTube, and we're putting it out to on your favorite podcasting application. And it's, it is, having to narrate that and being like, 2 men are displaying their Superman t-shirts right now, in case you can't see it.
Jake literally has become the narrator of every visual cue, and I love it every time. It's like, Justin is currently dancing behind the stage. You can't see him, but he's making Ethan laugh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, excuse me, Ethan and I met singing a cappella a long time ago. If you didn't guess, I was the bass in the group, or one of the basses in the group. And so you get me a good microphone. What do I want to do? I want to talk low into a microphone. So I take those opportunities where I can.
I feel like your natural inclination is somewhere between, like, Brother Love from Saturday Night Live and NPR. Yeah. Which is wonderfully clinically sexy. I don't really know the better way to say it. It's kind of awkward, but like works. I don't know.
Hey.
We had a really good week. Last week we had Justin Nordell from the Philadelphia Folk Song Society, and we had a really great conversation about the end of Pride Month and how, in particular, he felt about this month and what this month has meant to so many in his community, and being able to stand up for essentially a minority of a minority. And we got into the conversation about intersectionality and how that affects even, it's one of those things. And I think ultimately one of both of our goals, and stop me if I'm either misspeaking or incorrectly speaking for you. I think one of our goals is trying to be more aware of what we're doing, because there's robotic language that you just learn because that's the language of where you grew up or who you are. And there's really just there's I found it interesting because as I said earlier, I'm a white Scottish kid that literally grew up on a sailboat. I mean, when you talk about the white privilege checklist, it literally has a picture of me on the front going like this. Which
I think we need to use that as our banner one of these days.
Please. No one meme that. I'm looking at you, cultural infidel.
Totally getting.
Good to see you back, brother. So I'm painfully aware of it, but I also I grew up in an atheistic household. Like, religion wasn't a thing. I thought churches were really nice buildings, and I thought synagogues were bingo halls, because bingo was written in letters this big, and synagogue was usually written in letters this big. So I didn't know.
You're not wrong.
And despite that being my upbringing, I ended up being sent to an all-boys private Catholic school for high school, which was a wonderful experience. A bit odd for an atheistic kid to be there. I got chosen as the most Catholic student in my class sophomore year and sent to a week-long retreat, which I'm pretty sure was a conversionary tactic. I don't know. But it was a wonderful experience. I had a wonderful time. I have wonderful memories from that entire thing. And then I decided that I really wanted to go to Brandeis, which is where we met, which is a Jewish school. So it's always been part of my life that even though I could very easily just look at the world and say, I'm the privileged majority, I can stick out in that land and hold my own, it's always been important to me to understand how the people around me see the world. Because I think that's really what life is. Like you can live a life for yourself, you can live a life for the people around you, and if you can't relate to the people around you, I don't know how you do that.
Well, and Adam Ezra made that point earlier on. There's more that connects us than divides us, but we are so focused on the things that divide us. And part of the reason for this podcast, part of the reason for Tribal Mischief in general, is sort of finding that common ground. And we use music in a lot of ways. We bring a lot of musicians onto this podcast.
Oh, Jake.
What?
Jake, you're bouncing around. Your connection's getting a little wonky.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good. I just figured I'd let you know.
Good? Am I okay now?
Yep. You're a little less Mr. Roboto.
That's good. That's very weird. I will check on that. So yeah, that's kind of what we're, that's really what we're about. But to start to segue into our guest this evening, I grew up, was raised Jewish, went to a Jewish summer camp, went to a Jewish youth group. There were not many Black Jewish people. There were not many Jews of color, of any color, really. It was pretty white. And I asked, so our guest this evening is Bethlehem The Vocussionist. And I even asked her about her stomp box, and we'll get into that later in the conversation. And I didn't even realize until she and I got on the phone and we were talking about it that part of my curiosity was this is a Black woman, a woman of color. And so I'm asking her about it, having Hebrew letters on her stomp box. And that was my own bias and my own perspective. And that's why we have these conversations, is to identify those things in ourselves and gain new perspective.
Yeah. And sorry, this is a stupid little anecdote, but it was one of my favorite things. So the summer between high school and college, I lived and worked on a Native American reservation.
I'm gonna go pour me
in Wyoming.
Whiskey. Hang on.
And this isn't a long story. I won't get into the craziness that was that experience. It was a wonderful experience, but I ended up getting stranded in Jackson Hole, Wyoming for a night because they oversold the plan. I'm like a 16-year or 18-year-old, 17-year-old at the time. They're like, you have to stay here. You can't go home. And I was like, whoa. They put me in a hotel, and the only place near the hotel that was food was a place called Los Bagels, started by a Mexican Jew. That they were grade A, fantastic bagels. But he literally, whoever ran it had a branding iron, and they literally branded the insignia of a jalapeno in the side of every bagel. And I was just like, this is intersectionality. I was a 17-year-old kid. This is 23 years ago. I was like, this is not the combination I expected, but I kind of love it.
This is intersectionality, and it's delicious.
At its best. The jalapeno cream cheese.
But just a schmear. So we met Bethlehem a few years ago at the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance. She sings in a duo called Bethlehem and Sad Patrick. And there, man, her voice just absolutely blew us away. And then we had a conversation with her. I can't remember which one of us, but I remember having conversations with her. I know you did as well. And just being blown away. It is just an eye-opening experience to have a conversation with this woman. And so I think 2 or 3 times in the last couple of weeks as we've been setting this podcast up, gotten the chance to talk to her on the phone. And every time I'm like, can we save some of this awesome for the podcast, please? And so I want to bring Bethlehem, the Vocussionist, into the room right now.
Hi, Ethan, Jake, gentlemen, how are you?
Excellent. Now that you're here.
Oh, thanks.
Man, Bethlehem makes everything better. When we were talking about the first time earlier, before we actually on the stream, you and I started talking about the first time we ran into each other. But what we didn't talk about was the first time I saw you play. which was at this conference, which we've mentioned on the show a couple times, called NERFA. It's the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance. And the weird thing about the way NERFA works is the majority of the showcases are in hotel rooms at like 2 a.m, which sounds super sketchy. Maybe it is kind of, I don't know, but it's sort of a really wonderful experience. So you literally go hotel room to hotel room, and you just hear and discover different artists. And I heard this music that was coming from like 3 or 4 doors down, and I just kind of did the entire and peeked in and saw you guys playing, and just I like chin down, saucer-eyed. You're good. That's my long saying. You're good.
Thank you.
How are you doing this evening, Bethlehem?
I'm doing great. I really, really am. Yeah. Thanks for asking. How you gentlemen doing this evening?
We're doing
pretty good.
Okay.
I'm really glad to have you here for a number of reasons. The music. As I said, I love that you and I met in a panel about diversity within our particular world, within the roots world. And I love this community. I love the folk scene. I grew up in it. I've been working in coffee houses since I was 13. But it's hard not to notice how monotone we can be. And we were, it took a lot of time, because I think I hate to say that it's better to get it right than to do it when it comes to diversity, because I think sometimes you just need to allow the interjection of diversity of thought, diversity of viewpoints, diversity of whatever. But I think there's also an amount of sort of self-awareness that has to go into an organization to start having that conversation meaningfully. And I think that was one of the better and bigger steps that we took, and it's resulted in a whole host of conversations and hopefully moving in a good direction. But I love meeting you there. I love listening to you talk with Vance Gilbert, who's one of our favorite people. I remember you trying to convince him that you weren't an instrumentalist, and him more or less yelling at you.
Yes. I've had that debate with a few people, and I just was like, you know what? Looking at it from your lens, I agree. But I'm going to navigate in this world calling myself an artist. But if you refer to me as an instrumentalist, I will take that too. So yeah.
And we've got some video. We've got some video that we're going to get to in a little bit of you with your instrument, if we're taking Vance's side in the argument.
Yes. Yes.
So, let's talk about that. Like, how did you? So, for those of you who don't know, Bethlehem sometimes performs on a stomp box, right? Mm-hmm. How did you bring that into your music?
So, I grew up. My musical background, rather, is gospel quartet, and so so I watched my father and his brothers, my uncles, as a group, though, mind you. One is doing the lead, the other one is doing the bass line. There's my uncle Linwood, who was like the leader of the group, if you will. He played the guitar, so then there was a lot of, traditional church stuff, clapping, stomping, but within the group to hold down the rhythm and everything. And so while the other two are doing harmony parts. And so that was my musical background. So, oh God, coming out and singing by myself, I would hear the music and the rhythm in my head. So then I'm figuring how do I convey this to my audience? And so I thought at first it was kind of weird, because I'm like, I've only seen this done as a group, and here I am single-handedly trying to, do this. But I said, whatever. And the thing that gave me a pass was that I was an artist. And artists do weird and crazy shit. So just expect that, and everything's gonna be all right. So I'll throw out the disclaimer, and I would clap, and I would stomp, and do the bass line, and sing the lead, and do the back, like all by myself. And then eventually, continuing this art form, if you will, at this one particular open mic, Wired Beans Cafe, this guy on the jazz scene, Victor Puentes, saw what I did, and he came out one night and he said, yo, Bethlehem, like, you should get a tarima made. So I'm like, yo, man, like, what's a tarima? And then he was like, oh, it's native to Spanish culture. And my Uncle Polo, he's a carpenter. And, you should go, like, see him and get this thing made. So I was like, all right, bet. So, yeah, I went and saw Polo, and we discussed, like, the size of the box. I said, listen, Polo, it has to be large enough for me to stomp and create rhythms, and when I get in my zone, I'm not going to like easily fall off the board. But then it has to be small enough for me to be able to transport like on SEPTA and everything, because I didn't have frequent access to a vehicle as I do now. Now we're talking about back in 2013. So the board was made in March of 2013, right? And so yeah, and I went to him and I was like, listen, before we got into the measurements, I said, this is the first time like I'm really like investing in myself. Like, yo, this is my instrument. I'm about to go in. Like, listen, Polo, I want mahogany wood. Like, I want the best. And Polo was like, mommy, it's going to be $240. So I was like, Polo, what's the next best cheapest thing you can get us, sister? Because I can't do $240 right now. So Polo said, well, you can do pine wood on around the sides and poplar wood at the top. And so Poplar kind of hung out in the back of my head, right? So it's this lady on the poetry scene, Terry Knight, our Lion. She adopted me as her spiritual daughter. And she was introducing me to jazz music because I didn't grow up off of jazz. And so she was like, baby, it's in you. You just got to be exposed to it. And I'm like, what's that? So she was referring to Billie Holiday, her song Strange Fruit. And so it's a line in Strange Fruit. I don't know if I'm correctly quoting it, but I'm like 90% there, which is body swinging off of poplar trees. And the top of my board, my tarima is made from poplar wood. And so I definitely wanted to add some of my culture in there. So I wrote in the Ivrit, in Hebrew, my name across the front, Bethlehem, which literally means my house of bread. And Polo engraved it in there. And I just want to make sure I get the whole story. In the Ficto, this tarima is native to Spanish culture. In Spain, they do flamenco dancing on it. Bring it over here to America in the 60s, 70s. To my elders, like y'all can correctly quote time frame. Anywho, it was known as a soapbox, where people would step on it and they would preach or they would deliver a message. And then coming back to my culture, like some of my ancestors were sold off of auction blocks, such as this. So my name means house of bread. I love me some bread. As little as I am, I love me some bread. However, bread is also substance. It's something that sustains you. So I feel like when you tie all of that in, that my tarima, that board, it was divinely made for me and my artistic purpose in the world. So yeah.
And what I love about that story is, I think what I've always appreciated about what I see as the root scene is it's multiple points of heritage, meaning what you use and the way you use it is in so many ways fairly identical to our Canadian Celtic dancer friends. We see doing very similar things at NERFA often, but it's approached in a very different way, and it has a different cultural meaning, and it has a different history in that context and in that place. So I really love that story.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of intent and intention in your music and in how you approach things. I think it's probably one of the reasons why we've loved talking to you, is that it's so thoughtful. There's no like, well, I mean, I needed a platform to sit on, and so I had, I built a platform, or I got a pallet, or something like that. It is there's all these layers, and that was I think that's how I called you for what was meant to be like a 3-minute conversation, and 45 minutes later my kids are like, "Are you still talking to your friend Beth?" Yes I am. Yes I am.
Right. Yeah.
And as soon as he was done talking to you, he called me and he was like, "Beth's in, and she's awesome, and she's gonna be great."
It's gonna be great.
It was like,
yep, I did.
Hey.
It's already sold, but okay.
So listen, y'all, I just want to share this with y'all. So one time I performed at the Locks conference, right? And it's his brother that I know from the Hebraic culture. He came out to see me perform. So this is his first time seeing me perform, in the world per se. I was singing at the temple and everything, but this is his first time being exposed to what I do as a vocussionist. And, I had the board on the stage. And so after I performed or whatever, and it came off, he was like, "Yo, Beth, that was dope." And he was like, "But yo, when I seen you with that board," I was like, "Come on, Beth, I know you short, but dang, you need a stage to stand up on, cause you short." And I was just like, "No, honey, I'm not, it's not that deep. I'm not using this to elevate my height at any, this is just for a performance." So I thought that was so funny. But yeah. So yeah.
So if I can, talk about this to get a little bit more into the story, if anyone didn't notice, when we talked about your music, you were talking about singing gospel, and now you're talking about the Hebrew on your stomp box.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely a question that I had when we were talking. Is okay, so gospel music, and then over to Jewish and Hebrew, and that was also something that I'd asked about. You were talking about Black Hebrew, I think, and I said, well, why? That's interesting. Why do you refer to it as Hebrew? Is there something different, or do you see something different, versus Jewish? And if you don't mind, sort of recounting your answer there, I found it very interesting.
Yeah. So within the community that I came into. And then going to another community, the term Hebrew felt more comfortable for Jews of color. And from my experience, the reason why that term was, or the reason why I use that term, and some of my fellow Hebrew brothers and sisters prefer to use that term, is because in my experience, when you say that you're Jewish as a person of color, or as a Black person, and I'm a woman, so a Black woman, one of the first responses that you get from white Jews or European Jews are, "Oh, so when did you convert?" And I found that to be very insulting, because it implied that this identity could not naturally or authentically be mine because I'm a Black person. And so I guess, I don't want to say to separate the two, but I use the term Hebrew so that I feel it is as a separation, okay, I'm going to use a different term to try to combat that response. But yeah. And
we talked a bit about, if you really think about it, we had conversations about about African Jewry, Ethiopian Jews and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
They're large communities of Jews of color. And I think that Jews of color, just like any people of color, run into problems in white communities in general.
Yeah.
But, just as Jesus was not white,
right?
Can we say that? Jesus wasn't white, folks. A Black Jew shouldn't be a white Jew. Realistically, is the change. Black Jewry is not, but as you said, I've run into it, and I grew up. I went to a Jewish summer camp. We had Ethiopian Jews on staff, and so seeing Black Jews was not. It's unusual, but not totally foreign. Even in my experience. But again, I was the one who went, "Oh, you've got Hebrew on your stomp box. That's odd." Whereas, if you were if you were a white person, I might not have asked that question. I probably would have asked different questions,
Yeah. And it's amazing, like some of the the reactions or response, some white people, white Jews, elders, older ones, they come and they say, do you know what's that lettering on your board? And I say, oh, that's my name. And he, oh, do you know what that is? That's, I know, I wrote it. It's just kind of
like you picked it up in a pawn shop or something.
Yeah, they're in their world and they're speaking from their perspective. But I'm just like, y'all actually think I'm gonna be stomping on the board with some lettering on the front of it that I don't know nothing about? Well, whatever. So yeah.
I think.
And usually when I say, yeah, I wrote that. That's my name. They look at me like. And then
if you could just do it,
so, yeah.
Stomp on it do one show with it upside down, just to piss everybody off, like just to play I don't know, is that upside down? I don't know.
Right.
It'd be funny.
Yeah. So yeah, but it's all good.
I think in particular, and like intersectionality has been something that we've talked about in a couple of the previous conversations. I think that for a significant portion of the population, it's just a mind twist that some people have a difficult time with, because there's such simplification. You're black. How could you possibly be anything other than black? You're Jewish. How could you be anything other than Jewish? You are XYZ. Yeah. One of the great sort of portions of the conversation that we had with Justin Nordell last week, who is a gay man, and out gay man, was about how the last month of Pride, which is generally all about celebration of the entire community, but usually within, to some degree, your own sort of subgroupings of the community, all of a sudden this month, because of what's going on with Black Lives Matter, because of what's going on sort of across experiences with what's going, unfortunately, all of the really awful things that are happening to trans activists and trans people, this month became an opportunity to celebrate that intersectionality in a month of celebration, particularly, and to look to the Black portion of the LGBTQ community and say, yeah, we're celebrating for you now. Like, this is about you. And I just adored having that conversation with him, because, again, so much of that experience is alien to me that, it helps to have someone break it down that way for you.
And to comment on something that you said, Ethan, I feel like it's easy for people to go into these, you're black, how can you be Jewish, if you're looking at it as a religion? Because they figure most black people are Christians, or, you got a good amount that are Muslim. But it's like, being a Hebrew is not a religion for me. It is a part of my cultural identity. And it's, I recently found out that it's on my mother's side, through her father. And so, like, it's not far-fetched when you look at it as a part of my culture, as being a black woman and being Hebrew culturally. Now, religiously, it could throw you for, a spin, but I don't look at it. It's not a religion to me, and it's my culture. It's a part of my cultural identity. So, yeah, I feel like if people looked at it from that lens, they might not feel the same way, or they might broaden their view as, what they would expect. So, yeah.
I think it's, Spike, live life well.
Yeah.
Speak.
That's a really good comment that they put in. Just so everyone knows.
Religion, yeah.
I was about to say, I told Bethlehem before we started tonight, one of sort of the things I'm trying to do is fix a lot of assumptions that I natively make. And one of the things I routinely do is when we get people that write in with screen names, I gender them. Oh man, thanks man, or like whatever. And Jake's the one being like, and he's typing to me behind the scenes like, did they say that they were a man? And I'm like, no.
I know, I do the same thing. Yeah.
Working on it.
Yeah. For those of you listening at home, the comment says religion and nationality are often conflated. Mm-hmm. Definitely an interesting point.
not to mention cultural. Like the culture, nationality, and religion are, for some people, close to the same thing. For other people, all three of those things have very little connection. So I'm always interested in that. So I do want to continue the conversation, but we wanted to announce we start the night on both Facebook and Twitch. Twitch is our home. It's our native home. We start on Facebook. We know it's easier for some people to sort of, it's where a lot of people are. We move over to Twitch for a number of reasons, one of which is it allows us to monetize this in a more reasonable way. Facebook will never give you $1. They will just take dollars from you, where Twitch will actually pay you to create wonderful conversations with wonderful people. It's also a place where we can put out polls and we can do a whole lot of consolidation of conversations. So we're going to be moving over there momentarily. We're going to be shutting off the Facebook our feed, and we're going to be moving to a whole series of sort of interactions. So please head on over. If you don't have an account, you can still watch us over there. If you want to comment, you'll have to create an account, but it takes 10 seconds. If you are an Amazon Prime member, you can give us $5 for free by going over there and literally saying, I'm an Amazon Prime member and I like these guys, and we get paid for it. So, that'd be cool, if you don't mind. So anyway, I'd say that's it. Bye to our Facebook folks, and we'll just continue talking.
You had mentioned about Judaism not being a religion. I was in Israel in September, and within 24 hours I was in a conference room with a bunch of people. It was my honeymoon, so we're there with a bunch of couples, and the gentleman speaking got up to the front of the room, and he was this very, very large, he was born South African, thick Afrikaans accent, but got up to the front of the room and said, "Judaism is not a religion." And I almost punched him because I, again, raised Jewish and very, involved in Jewish tradition and all that. And a lot of my sort of formative memories are around the Jewish organizations I was part of and camp and all of that. And here he is telling me that what I considered my religion was not a religion. But there were a lot of people here, and I didn't want to embarrass myself by getting beat up by a 65-year-old large South African man. But I listened to him for about an hour and a half. I think a lot of people would.
My cell phone would have been out, and it would have been posted.
This is going to be good. Going live right now. But by the end of it, I listened to it and I went, "No, you're right." It's a whole broad range, and it's amazing. And I am going to broaden this point in a second. That the more he talked about it, he talked about how it was a cultural institution, and religion is a part of it. But if you approached Judaism, we use that as the microcosm first. If you approach Judaism as a culture, and you have you're very secular, you're sort of very cultural Jews on one side of the spectrum, and you have your very religious and very observant Jews on the other side of the spectrum, but you consider that, your extreme Orthodox Jewishness does not impact the very secular Jews, because we're all under the same umbrella. If we're all just culturally Jewish, we're just on this spectrum in terms of your observance, what change would that make on all of the infighting within Judaism? And I wouldn't suggest that there's more there than any other religion, but let's talk about Judaism here. But imagine if we applied that across the board. Ethan and I talk about applying that in our folk community under this banner of community that we talk about. But imagine if we applied that to I don't know, our country or the world, for example, that we are all people and we're all under this banner, and there's a spectrum of everything.
Yeah.
I was having, and I don't know, I'm always interested in people that have a lot of experience outside of the United States, because unfortunately I've traveled around the States a lot, but I've been to Canada a couple of times, and most people told me that doesn't count. To our Canadian fans, it absolutely counts. because frankly, you do things better than we do. But I find it interesting that there is a perception of within the United States of other countries being more racist or more, and there absolutely are worse places, no question. But people look at South Africa, and they're like, well, look how racist they are. They had apartheid 20 years ago. Yeah, but there are more black members in their parliament than we have in ours. Our Congress, our Senate. They course corrected in a real way, and I feel like the United States in particular tries to hand wave and be like, slavery's not a thing. It's solved. It's done. Mm-hmm. And the real long-term ramifications of what that means, like the trauma of that lives for generations. And that's not even including the fact that there is, as is being made very, very clear with what's going on with Black Lives Matter, there is still plenty of trauma going on. Mm-hmm. Anyway, sorry, that little weird slip up from that. But I did want to throw out. We're going to start talking about your video because I love your video. We love your video so much. I'm going to toss out to the folks that came over with us to Twitch a poll, because I'm always interested when I talk about the community that I come from.
Sorry.
You can't put it up until we're quiet. But when I talk about the community that I come from, I call it roots music for the most part. I occasionally say folk, but there are so many things that fall under the category of folk music. I'm interested to hear, for anyone on the line, when you hear roots music, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you? So there's a poll out there. It's going to be open for a minute. Anyone in the room that wants to respond can do so. I'm interested because I think, Bethlehem, you're talking about where you grew up and how you grew up, and the gospel music was the basis of it. And I wholeheartedly believe that gospel music is one of the most pure forms of folk music out there. Yeah. You got the sing-along, you got the intense personal meaning, and you've got the depth of what you are singing and saying. But oftentimes it's sort of not included. So I don't know. We're throwing that out. I'd love to hear from people with it.
And so Bethlehem, while we've got that poll open, where I know that you've been going through some sort of introspection, I know, in your music and in your path with that, and we'll get to the video in just a second, but where do you see your own self in your music and in the music community, and also in terms of the introspection over the last few months?
Wow. So these last few months have been really, really good for me. And I want to be very sensitive because I know it's not a good time for everybody. But for me, it has been really, really good. Like I have been extending myself here, there, everywhere, and then anywhere, and then anything else in between where, right? And so just been running, like hustling, like, you know what I mean? Doing this, doing that, doing this, gigging. Like I'm a part of Ryan Tennyson and the Graceland Band. I'm a part of the duo, Bethlehem and Sad Patrick. I do my Bethlehem The Vocussionist, just me. I was a teaching artist at the Wilma Theater, portable studio. So I was at the Lullabye Library, and then I do natural hair. I have my own natural hair business, and I work at an assisted living facility. Like I do a lot. And so when the pandemic happened and everything shut down and the pause button was hit, I was like, cool. But it's crazy because I just started to work with the Lullabye Project, where we would go to like different facilities and help parents, mainly mothers, sometimes fathers, we would help them create lullabies as a means to of them bonding with their children. And so that was kicking off. I was like, yo, this is dope. Then pause button, and I'm like, what's going on? So it's crazy how even when you're still and you're used to moving, even though you're physically still now, my mind was still racing. So once I realized that I had to quiet down my mind and slow that down and think and become one with the stillness and with the pause, right, mentally as well as physically. And then, after a while, through having a conversation with my yoga teacher. Now, look, y'all, I don't take yoga no more, but she was my yoga teacher, but she's still in my life. But that's how I identify her, because she came into my life through yoga. Anywho, I really needed to, not that I didn't know, but I really needed to take this time and understand, what it truly meant for me as an artist. I had no desire to perform at all, none. And I understood the reason why, because of the level of, because of how spiritual my performances are, and they can be, the energy in it, I understand that that alone makes me a different type of artist. And so, during this quarantine or this pandemic, I understood that this is time for me to collect purpose and substance. I can't get back on the hamster wheel. And it's a fine line for artists such as myself, between performing with the intent of purpose and substance and just doing it out of routine, just gigging, just getting that money. You know what I mean? And so, and I can't get caught up in the routine of it because of the type of artist I am, and because of the spiritual energy that comes out during my performances. And so, I needed that. I needed this time to collect purpose, substance. And so I had to realize then on that deeper level, yo, Beth, what kind of artist are you really? These are the questions my yoga teacher was asking me. This is the time for you to figure out, what kind of artist are you? What kind of content do you want to put out? What do you think is purposeful and meaningful? Because now you got the time to do it. And I didn't, and before the pandemic, during all this time, I would constantly say to myself, sporadically, don't forget about you, because people knew you before you joined yourself to these different entities. And so, but because of the way I obligate myself, sometimes when you're connected to these entities, and when the entity stops, you stop. And you have to remember, oh, wait a minute, I am one with them, but I am also separate. And so I had to come into my own, into my individuality, and be like, okay, Beth, what kind of artist are you? What kind of, music do you want to put out? And I looked up African dance, because a lot of people say, they describe what I do on the board as dancing. Oh, she danced. Yeah, the girl, she dances, she sings. And I'm like, correction, I'm not dancing. I'm creating rhythms. I'm doing body percussion and singing. And I had to come up out of that, because I cannot dictate what they see. So if enough people are telling you something, I feel like it's something that you need to pay attention to. So I said, well, if they say I'm dancing, then darn it, that's what I'm doing. I'm dancing and creating rhythm. If that's what they're getting, fine. So I looked up African dance, and African dance is communication with the body and the spirit, and your first, within the African culture, your first healers and leaders were first dancers. So then that even gave more depth into what it is that I'm doing. And so, this pandemic has been, so after I figured that out, the vision came to me, who am I, right? I feel like our identities are attached to so much stuff outside of us. But when all those things are taken away, per this pandemic, who are you at your core? Like, who are you outside of being the life of the party? Who are you outside of being that dope performer? Like, who are you outside of your status or your, any degrees that you may have, attained? Like, who are you? And so, because really and truly, I feel like everything that I need, I already have within myself. And it's important for me to realize and recognize that. And so this time it's been definitely a time of self-reflection, a time of, okay, if this is who I am, then I want to share this with the world. And I feel like a lot of people should be asking this question, because this question leads, I think, to true progression. When we really find out who we are outside of all these things that people want us to be or that we feel we need to be. So, yeah.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I found at the beginning of this sort of experience of quarantine, of going through this slowing down in some sense, it was really hard for me. I volunteer my time to so many different spaces and so many different activities. I learn, I do not leave myself time alone with myself. I don't believe, personally, I don't believe that is due to any. I didn't believe that it was due to any internal issues that I had with myself. But as I discovered on the second month of quarantine, when every weekend I was giving myself, like, I have to build 2 gardens this weekend. I'm going to build gardens from scratch. And I couldn't give myself that downtime. Sort of one of my realizations was that I need to start spending more time thinking about that question. Who am I? What do I want other people to see me as, but what do I want to be, regardless of what I'm as? And that isn't the angle that I usually approach that question. And what I find funny about it is Jake and I have been talking about starting this podcast for 4 years, 5 years,
something like
and we could never agree on how we wanted to approach it. We could never get to the point where we were ready to pull the trigger. And had Jake called me the first week of quarantine, I would have said, great, let's do it. We'll be ready to go. And I don't think this show would have worked, because my goal would have just been go out there and do it. And it's taken a couple months now. But we started this, I think, literally a month ago. And that allowed me enough time to realize I need to be mindful. I need to be conscious of. And there are a lot of people in my life that have helped me with that. And some have pushed and some have pulled. Jake, one of my oldest friends and best friends of over 2 decades, has borne the brunt of my acting out of instinct. Sorry, I feel like I'm going to be taking over the discussion to some degree, and I apologize, but what you said speaks so very closely to that experience of realizing that while I like what I'm doing, I wasn't quite sure that I liked myself in doing that. And I need to step back.
I think Bethlehem's introspection is contagious, apparently. It definitely seems to come out of these conversations. I don't want to cut this off, but one of the things that Bethlehem has shared with the world and shared with us is this video that she posted on YouTube in the last couple of weeks, I think. And the title of it is "Who Am I?" Bethlehem, do you want us to show it and then talk about it? Do you want to preface it at all, or how would you like us to do this?
No, I want y'all to check that thing out, and then we'll chat about it later on.
Okay.
After the video, yeah.
And we have a link to this on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Tribal Mischief Productions. We have just shared this for our viewers and listeners. So we're going to share this now, and we'll circle back and talk about it when it's done.
Cool.
Who am I without my jewelry? Who am I without my makeup? Who am I without my crown?
Just can't seem to shake it. See, that thing called joy caused me to slip right on into my happiness hills. And honey, I started stepping and moving and twirling all over the place. And while I was twirling, I started thinking about the things that I've been through and the things that I've overcome. And that spirit started getting so good to me that, honey, I couldn't stop the tears from falling down my face. See, I celebrate in knowing that I am and will always be just fine. As I dance, I call upon the ancestors from underneath my feet. And I give praise to the God of my ancestors above my head. And yes, they rise to the occasion. See, they order my steps and they guide me along my path. Yes, they protect me and are watchful with a diligent eye. I celebrate life. I celebrate love. I celebrate. I celebrate. Dancing, y'all. Dancing. I'll be 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 dancing, y'all. dancing, y'all. I've been dancing, y'all. Dancing.
So what you all could not see was Bethlehem just smiling from ear to ear through that entire video. I kept going back through from watching the video and then looking. So backstage we can see all the hosts and the guests and all that backstage. And man, it was cool to see and it was cool to watch it with you. So what were you thinking? Tell us, take us through that a little bit.
So every time I see that video, it's just like, it is an immense happiness. Like, wow, like this is a vision that I had. It's out there. And like, I feel like the message is so powerful and it's so needed. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's needed first because I needed it. It did something to me. And that's how I approach my music. Like, if it don't say nothing to me, then I can't make it say nothing to anybody else. And so, yeah, I'm just like a proud grandma looking at her granddaughter like, go ahead, baby, do that thing. So, yeah.
Well, I was taking notes. I mean, you said, I celebrate in knowing I am and always will be just fine. I mean, if what else, what more important message do we need right now than I celebrate in knowing I am and always will be just fine?
Yes. So, yeah. I got the copy up.
So we've got people writing in some comments. I just want to, I don't know if you can read them. I know you're using a phone, which is a bit of a challenge for some of the readings, but lot of really wonderful feedback. Cultural Infidel, who has been with us since the first episode 5 weeks ago, just gave a capital letters wow.
Thank you.
So you got them speechless. C. Doman Wells, from the question to the meditations to the celebration and affirmations, that was so special. Thank you for sharing authentic. Can you tell us about that beautiful space? Yes.
So that space is at 11th and Vine at the Vox Populi building. It's like a big warehouse where it has like, different. So the name of the space is called Soul Garden Studios on the second floor. And it is, oh my God. So when I first came, when the vision came to me initially, I was going to do it in my apartment. I said, look, I was playing around my, my little iPad, my little Surface Pro, like, yeah, let me, figure this thing out. This thing will be done right here. And so, a series of events happened, had to cancel those plans. And it was crazy because I was like, well, darn, Most High, like, you gave me this vision and I'm ready to do this thing. And then like a pause button is being hit again. Like, yo, what's up? Like, what's going on? So me and my spirit, I hear the spirit say like, listen, I got you, right? I just need you to take care of this one thing, but I got you. Honey, about a couple days later, this sister named April reached out to me and said, Bethlehem, you don't know me, but I've been following you for years and I've been wanting to work with you, but I just haven't had like my stuff together. I got this space. I'm reaching out to artists that I know are like healing and inspirational and stuff. If you have something that you want to do in this space, it's open to you.
Wow.
Did you hear me? So I'm like, oh my God. So I clicked on the joint, looked at the space, like, yo, this space is so dope. So called her up, honey, I'm long with it. Me and her have like this high spiritual conversation, like me on the phone for like a couple hours. That's just how I do. You know what I mean?
Do you have a short phone conversation? I don't think you do. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I came to the space And I looked at it and I was like, oh, and I could just hear the Spirit say, like, this is going to make the message this much more powerful. Because in the space, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but there's 4 elements in the space. So the first element that I went to shed my jewelry was the fire element. And then I went to the water element. There was a fountain behind there. Then after that, I took off, so the watermelon, I shedded my makeup. Then I went to the air element, and I took off my crown. And then I went to the earth element to heal. So yeah. So I utilized each element. And then after the earth, I went back to the air, freedom, and
I feel like I need a key to any conversation with you, because there are just layers and layers and layers and layers. I mean, when you and I spoke. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was about to say that was what particularly struck me about the video. When you're watching something that has so much depth that you know that you're enjoying it just on the face of it, but it's so clear that there is much, much more going on that you have to discover as you go. And that was just, I've watched it, easily a dozen times plus now, and every time I feel like I'm understanding something a little bit better, but I also, it's like any good art, interpretation, your interpretation as the artist to some degree is always going to be superseded by the perspective of the viewer. Mm-hmm. So you do your best to provide as pure a vision of what you want to do. And that was pure.
Thanks.
There's with songwriting, we write music, and once you have put it out in the world, you don't own it anymore. Like,
right.
People, it kind of belongs to everybody else. And so people will come to you and say, oh, this song meant this to me, or it helped me through this. And that might not have anything to do with where you were coming from when you wrote it. And even the songs that, that, just speaking about myself, even the songs that I've written that have translated the most people, if I tell them where it came from, it would not elevate the music. And what astonishes me so much about that video is that I can watch it. I could just watch that video with no sound and be absolutely blown away. And then I could listen to it by itself, and just, it is meditative. And you put those together and it's another level. And then you can have Bethlehem explain it to you.
Yeah.
And then you need a ladder to get to the levels that's going to take you to. You had talked about like getting down off that stomp box, and how that even represented sort of you stepping away from the music that you'd been making and examining who you were as an artist. Can you talk about that and those other pieces in there?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it represented before the pandemic. I'm gigging, routine. Then boom, the world shakes. That's the pandemic happening. Right. What the hell is going on? So then, once the world
let me know
has shifted, or this shake, now I'm stepping off of the board into uncertainty, into I'm scared. I'm like, what new world is this now that everything has been shut down or taken away or whatever? And so my first steps are very cautious and shaky. But then as I get closer to to where I'm going, I'm getting more comfortable in this. And then my steps are starting to, be more secure and solid. And I wanted the camera to focus on my feet because I wanted people to focus on the journey. You know what I mean? And then I chose.
And there was such a journey from the box to the water to those different areas.
Yes. And then, I'm shedding off my jewelry at the fire element. It says, you should refine gold as pure or through the fire, something to that effect. And then after that, I went to the water element as a cleansing to take off my makeup. And makeup wise, that's the extent of it that I do. So I wanted to be very true to how I go in the world. If I'm wearing makeup, I don't do foundation. So the little eyeshadow and stuff. So yeah, I wanted to keep it very authentic.
Me too.
And so
that's fair.
Yes, right? Because I'm like, I want people to express like Bethlehem. Like, okay. So went there, removed the makeup at the water element. Then I moved on to air. And I removed my crown. They say, you know, the crown or the head is the highest chakra. So I removed that. And then from there, I walked over to the earth element. And that's when I got on the board and took off my shoes, because my shoes, out of everything else, symbolize me gigging. Like, if I don't have a microphone, when you see them shoes on, honey, you know it's about to go down. So yeah, remove the shoes. I threw them out without my gig. And then, like, you know, I'm like going down, like this quarantine got me quiet. You know what I mean? Quiet enough to like self-reflect, quiet enough to ask myself, am I resisting? You know, am I aware? Do I care enough? You know, and so I'm asking these questions to myself, and then, you know, it's still scary and I'm feeling anxious and all this. And then after a while, I rise with like evolve, you know, so I shed it. Now I'm healing. I'm healed. Now I'm evolving. And then I'm celebrating in my evolution back over to air, back over to freedom, and I pick back up my crown and I'm celebrating with my crown. And I'm just like on the board and
it's amazing.
Yeah, like, oh God, y'all got me. Yeah. So.
Well, you use the word celebrating, and that's what's amazing to me. This is sort of, you know, an analog for what we've all been going through in the last few months and what you've personally been going through. And so you're talking about, as you're taking away all these parts of that someone would call they're of you. You're taking your shoes off, you're taking your jewelry off, you're taking your makeup off, and it's through that. And then you use the word celebrating over and over and over again. And to celebrate in the midst of all the fucking insanity that's going on right now,
yes,
is incredible.
And sorry, Jake, I left that apart. So, please. You know, quarantine got me quiet. Boom, present the mask, put the mask on. So now I'm feeling like more, you know, isolated. But this is the time to ask yourself these questions. You feel what I'm saying? Now that the distractions are gone, had that real talk with yourself. And then me taking off the mask was like, this shit ain't gonna last forever. You feel what I'm saying? This is temporary, but it's about the healing and the reflection that you do in the midst of this storm that will cause you to evolve to a place that when this is over with, we can walk out as better human beings and celebrate, and knowing that, hey, I'm good. Like I am, and I always will be just fine, because I realized I've had everything that I needed. I just needed time to realize that and recognize that and pull that out. So, yeah.
And you had Christine write in. She identified herself. She's someone that I know followed us on Facebook and came over. But basically saying, "Good heavens, I needed to hear this." To celebrate right now is an absolutely radical act. And that is, I agree. And the process of discovery, you know, as you were discussing your process of realizing that this was an opportunity for you to delve into who is Bethlehem, and I shared my own journey in the last couple of months, less in discovering who I am, more realizing that I need to get to the point where I can stop to even think of the question. There is something that I've been told for a long time, and I've always hated, like I've had a visceral internal reaction to, which is growth can't happen if you're comfortable. There needs to be a level of insecurity. There needs to be a level of putting yourself out there to really discover and allowing yourself to clearly state, this is who I am. So not only do you have to yourself realize it, but you then have to share that. And that the sharing of that for some people, and I am a lifelong performer, getting in front of stages of people. I am more comfortable on a stage than I am sitting here talking to two people. It's just the way I'm built. But the realization that I needed to work on going through that discovery myself, that was scary. The realization that I then, because of who I am, would need to share it is terrifying, but I think necessary.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, you bring out a lot of feelings in me.
No, don't be sorry. It's good. It's good to be able to feel. You know, we have so much stuff that numbs us down. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I think, and I wish I had a better word in my head, but like, I'm so proud of the work that you've done here. Like, and I apologize if it comes off even slightly patronizing, because that's not what I mean. But there is pride in seeing someone that I have thought of as a friend, I've thought of in friendly terms in my community, to see them do something with that level of depth and that level of meaning, and to be able to. And again, forgive the language if I'm choosing the wrong words, but to be that emotionally naked, it is not enough artists can get to the point where they can do that, and you did.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that, you know, that was something along my journey, singing outside of the church and then progressing to like the synagogue or whatever, that I definitely wanted to do. And I'm here. Like, I wanted to open myself, like, within the Black church, or the, you know, the Black Hebrew synagogues or Knesset, you know, Black people are very, generally speaking, they're very spiritual people. So, you know, the spirit will fall and you get people tearing and all of that. And it's a safe place to do in these places because people understand what's going on. You get what I'm saying? And so I was like, I want to be that vulnerable in the world, or singing music that isn't necessarily religious. Like, because that energy feeds me. And I want people, because within that is a journey. Within that can bring about healing and so many other beautiful things within myself. So of course, you know, to other people. And so I've gotten to the point where, you know, I'm just singing and a song hit me a certain way and then I'll just start crying. And before I would be like scared because I'm like, they're not gonna understand what's going on. And so I'm like, man, it ain't about them understanding what's going on. It's about me releasing this energy and they're going to come to understand it. You get what I'm saying? And whatever it means to them, if they can't put words to it, just the energy that's being released and the feeling that they're getting is doing something for them, because it's doing something for me. So it's going to do something to somebody else. So it's just like, so the fact that I've gotten this vulnerable, it's freeing. To not be in your head and wonder if people going to take you the wrong way, but just be you. Like, I'm comfortable with Bethlehem.
Just be genuine. Yeah.
And I want people to experience these different layers that this music can take me and how it works on me. So, yeah.
Right. There is something particular to great art, where great art taps into... I think some people call it spirituality. Some people think of it in that vein. For people like me that grew up less on the specifically religious side, there is a universal truth to great art. And there is the conveying of that. It doesn't matter the messenger, because great art is great art. And I am, and I apologize for sort of stating it this straightforwardly. I'm a lifelong atheist. I will always be a lifelong atheist. But the best spiritual music will make me break down and cry. The best of any truth, and it's truth to the performer, the messenger. There's just something so special about it, and I am so thankful that I was able to see that video before, because I probably would have just been stammering for the entirety of the rest of this conversation. But I believe the video is getting a little traction on YouTube. You're getting people watching it there, which is awesome.
Yeah,
man, you deserve the widest audience possible. So for everyone watching, we ask favors of the community in general, and we're going to be consistent. It means the world to us when you share stuff about Tribal Mischief and what we're doing. But specifically, please, this week, go to Bethlehem's website, go to that, or go to our page on Facebook and get the link specifically to that video and share it. Get it out there.
Yes.
Because honestly, unfortunately, the way the world works, particularly the internet world, is unless a bunch of people say, watch this, it won't be seen.
Yeah,
right.
It gets buried.
It's not just getting watched, it is having people say, you need to watch this.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, would appreciate it.
Yeah.
And Christine, you're awesome. Shared your video already.
Thank you, Christine. Appreciate you.
So is that linked off your website as well, Bethlehem?
It's in our video area.
Okay, so BethlehemTheArtist.com. We've put that up on the crawl. We've shared that a bunch, so please share that. If you're enjoying the conversation right now, I'll take the moment here. The comments and all the folks that come back here every week, as Ethan said, that we've been doing this a month. This is our 5th artist. I feel like we're setting the bar pretty high for the future conversations, like Ellis Paul and Adam Ezra and Bethlehem tonight, like. Share this stuff, man. Like, I'm just sitting here listening to you, Bethlehem, listening to this conversation, going, God, everybody needs to hear what this woman has to say. You know, we dragged a couple of folks over here tonight. And please share the message, share Bethlehem's art, share this podcast with people. We want to, we want people to hear it. It has nothing to do with us. Ethan and I started a stage at Falcon Ridge Folk Festival 10 years ago for the sole purpose of getting good music out there. And look, we played it twice that first night because we didn't have enough artists to fill all of the slots. That's all it was. And this is a community that loves us, and they love when we play. But we will take ourselves off there really quick, and we've done it a number of times to get other voices out there. Our goal, we love our music. We've been doing God Pesky J Nixon for 15 years, but our biggest and favorite moments are, Bethlehem, I think you're at 300 and something views. When that breaks 500, when it breaks 1,000, when it breaks 10,000, I will celebrate that. We will celebrate that more than we will celebrate our own videos. And everybody listening to the podcast, everybody watching the stream right now, please help with that, because someone said it earlier, like, good Lord, this is what we need right now.
There's sort of there's a lot of work that went into deciding how we were going to go about technically having these conversations, meaning not just how we were going to be talking to wonderful people like you, but how we would do, how we would create a way of interacting with people, and a way of creating a method where we don't have to every week say, please give us money. If people want to give us money, that's great. But, and what we discovered was there are these two giant companies called Twitch and YouTube. One's owned by Amazon. They're not hurting for money. The other's owned by Google. They're doing okay.
Also probably doing okay. Yeah.
And those two companies, they're the only companies out there really right now that will pay creators to create. And it's not a huge amount up front, but if we have this video shared by the 25 individual people that were watching it at any given point in time, everyone shared this. And a fraction of those people shared it. And all of a sudden, you go from the thing that 5 to 10 people saw to the thing that 60, 70 people saw. There's a snowball. There's a natural snowball effect that happens in any art. And it can't simply be, unfortunately, great art does not travel on its own. It needs its messengers. It needs the people that will take that art and say, you know, we all had the friend in high school, the one that was like, did you hear the newest album? You need to go listen now. So like, it's really, I you know, not to harp on the folks on here, which by the way, sorry, everything's backwards. To the left and down, actually right below where Jake's hand is, there is a little heart follow button. If you click that on Twitch, it helps us out a lot. Doesn't cost you anything. It's basically just a like button. But if you click it, it helps a lot. So if you wouldn't mind, that would be great. And please follow Bethlehem's happenings. We'll toss up her website again at the bottom of the feed just to make sure you guys go there. She's doing such wonderful things.
So Bethlehem, you'd said that you had stepped back from performing a little bit, but I want to let the folks that are following us right now know that Bethlehem and Sad Patrick, they might be maybe sending a video for the lounge stage if you tune into the lounge stage.
We are. Yes, we are. Yes. We recorded it, today, Sunday, Friday. And when I tell you that video is everything, and I'm saying it because I'm in it. I'm saying it like, looking at it like, yo, this joint gonna pop. So yeah, get ready.
I'm so excited. So we, the lounge stage to stage, Jake and I, this would have been our 11th year, I think, either our 11th year,
yeah.
Our 11th year. And we have presented, I was corrected last time I said well over 100 artists. It's been well over 250 artists. And I will probably be corrected till I get the exact number right.
It's over 200 artists.
Yeah. It's
Scott Jones, if you're watching, it's over 200 artists. We're going to get it right one of these days, I swear.
We love you, Scott. We love you so very much. But it was an opportunity for us to take a place we loved that had a wonderful core group of artists and performers and find a way for us to inject new voices into that conversation. And new voices that got a chance to perform in front of a huge community of people that adore art and be discovered. And we watched dozens and dozens of people go from never playing there before to playing the main stage, never playing there before to being booked in every major listening room on the East Coast. And none of that is to state we were lucky enough to have them before everyone else discovered them. Doesn't mean we made their success happen. They made their success happen. But being able to share people like you that we just believe in and we want so very badly for everyone to realize that, you know, I ran that poll earlier. When you think of roots music, what does that mean to you? And I put up folk music, and I put jazz and blues and bluegrass and gospel, and 100% answer was folk. And that's not a bad thing. Like, if folk is your default, I'm not trying to tell you that's bad, but what I am trying to tell you is there's so much more, and I am interested in that so much more.
So I want to jump back to questions for Bethlehem. Ethan and I have this tendency to talk, which is why we started a talk show. But we also need to, we chat back and forth during these things, and we're like, okay, I got to shut up now, or you got to shut up now. And so I told you before we jumped on here that my daughter had a question. So I mentioned earlier that we were in the car, and my friends were like, hey, are you still talking to your friend Beth? 45 minutes into our 5-minute conversation. So this was, so my daughter's 11. I was talking to them. I took I take moments for, teachable moments. I take the opportunities with my kids. I have an 11-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son, Gavin and Soraya. If you're listening to this, go to bed. Anyway, so I introduced my kids to Hamilton, and they got sort of fascinated by all of that. And I was, telling them about you, and my daughter asked, based on the conversation, just based on, talking about you and talking about our conversation, my daughter said, well, what if women wrote the Constitution? And what if black women wrote it? And I was like, I will ask her. Do you want me to ask her? And my daughter wanted me to ask you. So I wanted to ask you what you thought. And we're getting into varying areas tonight, but we've talked a lot about, kind of culture and how we got here. What do you think would be different if women wrote the Constitution or black women wrote the Constitution? You were not ready for this question.
Wow.
If black women had a voice, if women had a voice in all this.
Yeah, black women have been nurturers of this earth, of their children, of other people's children. And so black women have God, we are strong women. We understand how to deal with things based off of the stuff that we've been through. You know what I mean? And so, God, if black women wrote the Constitution, I feel like it would be, I'm trying to find the words. Like, I feel like it would be way more in tune with nature, way more in tune, we just, everybody got an ego, but I just feel like, I feel like things would just be, I don't know, different, more relatable, I guess. More like we'll be we'll be touching surfaces that we need to touch, making us more humane, because like the way a mother loves her child is just like different stuff like that. So I think, it would be, that would be quite an experience. Sorry, I didn't have that's the best way I can describe it right now, like on the spot. Like, I know what I'm feeling, but I can't really articulate it right now, but from what I've articulated, I hope y'all get the gist of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think there is a great American compromise in the way that we approach having certain discussions. Mm-hmm. The example I'd give you, or the example that I tend to think about, is after 9/11 occurred. I was on an airplane roughly every month. And I remember for every flight that I went on for a year and a half, you would have the announcement made about 5 minutes before boarding saying, could Susan Collins and John Smith and Hajib could you guys come to the front? And it was one of those things where it was a system where you had to fake non-profiling to profile, which is what I mean by the Great American Compromise, meaning we can try being considerate in our lack of consideration versus being able to say, I'm sorry, the last 15 people to do this traveled to the same place you did, came from the same background you did. I'm sorry, I have to check you. Not that that's necessarily right, but at least it's honest. Where we have a way of approaching these things that is fundamentally dishonest.
Yeah.
I think and I apologize. So the reason I'm saying this is I'm trying to interpret what you said, and as far as what we would get out of a black woman written constitution and styled government. And to me, every black woman in my life, every black woman that I know is, if nothing else, remarkably honest. And perhaps that characteristic in sort of the national personality wouldn't be there.
And sorry, y'all, just to be clear, like the reason why I felt like I needed to specifically say black woman is because I am a black woman. Like I don't know, I only can speak from like my experience. You know what I mean? Like I can't.
Your experience is why we invited you on tonight.
Thanks, yeah. Like I can't say what it would be like to write from a white woman's perspective. I only can speak from a brown perspective.
Sure.
So that's like the only reason why like I kind of honed in on that, to try to make it as the answer, coming from a more authentic place. But yeah, I know I'm very honest, brutally honest sometimes. I gotta curb that sometimes. Like, well, wait a minute, that was a little bit blunt there. Pull it back. Still be honest, but pull it back. So yeah.
Well, I said, I think on the podcast, but if not right before, I said I was voting for you.
Yeah.
Excuse me, for president, because on one of our calls, you were like, I'm fiery. And we had just joked about you being a short, black Jewish woman. And I was like, a fiery black Jewish woman? That's what the country needs right now. I'm voting for you because we definitely don't need more old white men.
Oh, goodness.
What do you think, with everything that has been going on with protests and riots and much more cultural awareness? Good Lord, NASCAR banned the Confederate flag. Like, what, as a black woman in America right now, what are you looking for? What if there was an outcome for all of this activity and action and awareness? Where would you like to see that go? I'm asking the broad questions, I get it, but...
Yeah. No, that's okay. Like, I just feel like the end goal is for everybody to feel and to know that they have the same opportunities, that they're not being held back or discriminated in any way, shape, or form. And I feel like it is a true it is truly traumatic when you have a people who have whose ancestors have built this country and who have paid more than their fair share, and we're still dealing with issues such as this. And I just feel like, do unto others as you would have done unto you. And it's like, if you wouldn't want this for yourself, then why would you want it for anybody else? And I just feel like humanity as a whole, I don't understand what the fear is. Like, for instance, just specifically, one thing, like, generally speaking, one perspective or way to look at this is, the powers that be, they're scared to lose their power. They are scared of getting done to them what they have done. We're talking about white supremacy, whatever, right? And so, but if you look at the facts, throughout this whole, since we came over here, like throughout this whole thing, from my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, Black people have never asked for revenge. Rightfully so, they could. We could.
Right.
But this is not what we've never asked for that. As far as I know, I could be wrong. I'm just saying from what I know. And so if you're going to be scared, I'm going to be scared of somebody who's asking for revenge, because I already know the mess that I put out, and I don't want, and if they want revenge, now it's time to be scared. But if I'm not asking for revenge and I'm just asking for equality, equity, like basic human rights, then what the hell are you really scared of?
Well, and I think that is, and I do not at all mean to try to refine a statement that is not mine. But I think it feels like what gets lost, even in the whole Black Lives Matter movement, is people take that as Black Lives Matter more instead of Black Lives Matter too.
Right.
Why is it that we take when somebody else says "What about me?" That doesn't mean F you.
Right.
It just means you started on third base. I'm started off in the dugout. Like, I'm just asking for it to be fair. I'm saying my life matters too, and I don't understand why people take it as Black Lives Matter more.
I don't either. And I don't understand how, when you look at the history of America and the history of our people in America, how you can even come up with that logic, like, or with that understanding, or even with that position, like, y'all like, damn, it can't be no clearer. It's plain as day. But you have a lot of misinformed, miseducated people out there, and they're looking at this as like, well, where did this come from? And, y'all should be happy and all this. And it's just like, y'all, we got to dig a little deeper, because this is not coming out of nowhere. And so, and that's why I put out the video.
This is not coming out of nowhere, man. If that's...
Yeah. Like, it's the time to self-reflect. Like, let's do some real self-reflect. Let's be honest. Let's have honest conversations with ourselves and then with each other. You get what I'm saying? And I feel like that's the key too. Like, you can't have a bunch of and I don't mean no harm, I'm just going to speak very freely. You can't have a bunch of white folk talking about what's going on without a Black person being in the midst, because you're only seeing things from your perspective. We need to have conversations amongst ourselves to really understand, or at least try to understand. We need to walk in with an open mind and truly seeking to truly understand. Some people just walk in and they're like, this some bullshit, so I'm just gonna listen because I'm supposed to listen. It's like, right. If you truly listen with a pure heart and with the right intentions, it doesn't have to be as hard as people think it is. It really doesn't.
And Dan Whitener, who's actually in the chat right now, and I'm really thrilled he's joining us tonight. He's Dan Whitener from Gangstagrass. He was actually on episode 2 of the podcast back when we really didn't know what the hell we were doing. He made a really interesting statement. He said, you can't have a conversation of Black people and involve a white voice, because then it's not a room full of Black people anymore. Now it's and so to what you're saying about how we have these conversations, it's really interesting that we all need to get involved in them, but at the same time recognize that as soon as you add a white voice at all, you add a white person to a room full of Black people, you're changing the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and he actually...
and vice versa.
Yeah.
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 Because let's be honest, as a nation, we have a lot of conversations about women without women being in the room. We have a lot of conversations of black folk without any Black folks being in the room. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Ethan.
Well, you sort of asked the question earlier, what are people scared of? And the optimist in me says they're just afraid of the unknown. They're afraid of change, because everyone, I think, is afraid of change.
And losing what they have.
But the pessimist in me, who occasionally wins out in these situations, I haven't even said my awful thing yet, Jake, and you're already choking up.
Sorry.
Pretty good.
The pessimist in me thinks that the reason they're afraid is because they're afraid that anyone else that's given power would be as awful as they were when they had
do all the crap they did.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like an evolved people would not want to repeat that cycle. That's not progression.
Yes.
Progression is not repeating the wrong that was done to you. It's like, yo, this was done to me. We've gotten past this. Let's move forward.
And it's not about revenge, like you said.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, please.
No. I ain't saying nothing. Go ahead, Jay. I ain't saying nothing. Go ahead.
So I think we'll wrap up with one more question here. Dan Reitner had a question.
Yeah.
So I think we'll finish up with this question and call it a night. Dan asked, he said, you mentioned the wisdom of the ancestors. What can the ancestors teach us about coming back from this quarantine time?
I feel like that the ancestors are teaching or can teach us to just operate in love, but understanding what love really is. You get what I'm saying? People have this idea of love, and I feel like we've been taught love based on condition. And I just feel like we need to remove that concept and like truly move in love, knowing that nobody will be lacking. Nobody. You're not going to lose when you move and when you operate in the spirit of love. Everybody wins. You know what I mean? And it's like, there are no big I's and little U's. Like, we understand and respect that different does not mean deficient. Like, we can celebrate our differences. Like, that's what it's about, man. It's not about, I need to conquer, I need to control this. Yeah, like I need to be able to live in harmony and in peace and in love with everybody. And listen, we're going to get, we're going to have disagreements, and that's okay, because I don't want to put out this unrealistic idea of what love is either on, on the good side. It's okay to have disagreements, but within those disagreements, I shouldn't be ready to take your life. Like, I shouldn't be ready to take away the basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, like your pursuit to happiness, like, because then we're going out of love. And when we find ourselves wanting to control and wanting to have all these things in an unhealthy way, now we're moving into fear. The two main emotions that people operate on is fear and love. And we have been plagued in so many ways, so many areas of our life with fear, that, man, it's time for us to shed that fear. And the more you shed that fear, you step right into love and different levels of love. And the higher you vibrate in love, like some of this stuff that people be on, you be like, yo, I see the level that you're vibrating at. And it's cool too, because everybody evolves at different levels. So love is patient. Like, we got to be patient with one another. Love is kind, like, man, listen, I can go on and on and on, but at the end of the day, at the beginning of the next one, love is the answer. Love is the key. And I just feel like when we truly understand the power and the benefit that love has for humanity as a whole, like, at an evolved state, we could look back at our old selves and be like, yo, we was on some bullshit for real. Because look at where we at now. You feel what I'm saying? Like, we was on that bullshit hard. But, like, now we're at a place where it's like, yo, man, everything is, like, it's good. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. We got 4 minutes trying to do that. But, yeah.
I tossed up Dan really loved your answer and wrote in that that's hugely powerful. You have to know what love actually means. I like that you talked about the parenting approach before. I've got to work on thinking that way. And Dan is one of the most thoughtful, wonderful, warm human beings that I have met in this life.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason, and you shared this on Facebook in very public ways, so I think I can say it, but he's parenting is something he's thinking about a lot right now. So congratulations to him.
Oh, congrats. And then, I got your shirt. We gonna be all right. So yeah,
Well,
got this going from it when the show.
Ethan sent me a message, and he said, I think we have our first T-shirt, and I think you have shared so much with us, Bethlehem, that, Christine just said I needed this so much. I think we all did. I knew this was going to be, we both knew this was going to be an incredible conversation tonight, but we couldn't have, we really couldn't have predicted how amazing it's been.
I think so.
Anything you want to leave us with, or Ethan, anything last you have for Bethlehem before we let her go?
Well, a couple things.
Bethlehem.
One of the things I have. Okay, go again.
Go ahead, Ethan. Me, you, who going?
The white guy should shut up for a minute. I talk too much.
Okay, so I want to thank Jake. I want to thank you, Jake. I want to thank you, Ethan, for having me on the show. Everybody that listened, that chimed in, that shared the video, thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all. I don't take that for granted. Y'all could be doing anything, honey, but the fact that you've dedicated some of your time to us in this show and this conversation, everything, I truly am grateful and thankful for you and your energy. Who Am I is not over with yet. Next week, we're going to release join the conversation. So be on the lookout for that. This week coming, right?
Off your website?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be on the web, on YouTube, all that. It's, we got to do some fine tuning.
Awesome.
So yeah, if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, I am Otenti Love. Otenti is the Hebrew for authentic. So Otenti is spelled OTENTILOVE. That's Instagram. Facebook, I'm Bethlehem Robertson. To all of my people that like to say Bethlehem, I love you, but you spell it with all E's, BETHLEHEM. Robertson, ROBERSON, no T's, no I's. Twitter, I just started doing a little Twitter thing. I'm Bethlehem 17 on there. And I think those are all the plugs. Yeah. I'm
trying to get all that. Bethlehem 17 on
Twitter.
On Twitter.
Yeah, I just started to do that. I'm like stinking brand new with the Twitter get up. So
I gotta be honest. Jake and I tried that about 5 years ago, and both of us just ran crying.
So good on you for taking a shot at it.
Not doing it.
Nope.
Right.
So when you figure it out and take over the world, just shoot us some advice.
Please let us know. We're sharing all your stuff on the stream right now.
Thanks so much.
You don't currently have a YouTube channel, right? And I know your video is linked off the venue.
Do. Listen, I'm late to the party with that too, honey. I didn't have a YouTube channel, but now I got 3 videos up. Yay! So I got my just freestyle joint Chun Chai I did on there with the looper. I have the Who Am I video, and then I have a video with Patrick and I when we gigged, a couple years back, I think. Okay. So yeah, and that's the YouTube channel was Bethlehem the Artist.
Awesome.
And it's the one without the face. It's like a bee in pink. That's the one you go to, because the other one only got one video. So yeah, there you go.
So we've said it here. We've got a lot of Bethlehem's information scrolling on the bottom of the screen. We'll also on the Tribal Mischief YouTube channel, we will set up a playlist of Bethlehem's videos. So you can go there and power watch them all, because I think that's what I'm going to do as soon as we're done.
Hey.
If you want to see some more of Bethlehem, we'll have a Bethlehem and Sad Patrick video coming up on the lounge stage at Falcon Ridge on Thursday, July 30th. We're not sure of the time yet. I think we have all that information there. This has been the Tribal Mischief Podcast on the Tribal Mischief Podcast Network. You can find us on twitch.tv/Tribal Mischief. Ethan, did you want to throw something in there?
Yeah, you and I got to talk about a couple things with everyone, but before we let Bethlehem go, like the main thing I wanted to ask you is, will you come back?
Of course.
Because I think, The purpose of this is a conversation, and conversations should be ongoing.
Yeah.
And
They
you've
should
taught
evolve.
you've taught me a ton tonight, and I'm going to process it for a long time, and I can't wait to continue the conversation next time.
Me as well. I'm so looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bethlehem.
Man, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all, man. Seriously.
Thanks.
We'll talk soon, and just thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
BethlehemTheArtist.com. All of her stuff is at the bottom of the page right here. We'll be linking most of it off both the Tribal Mischief Facebook page, as well as I said, the Tribal Mischief YouTube channel. We'll put together a playlist of all of Bethlehem stuff. So thank you so much. We'll let you go. And
all right.
Have a wonderful night.
Thanks so much,
You too,
Bethlehem.
man. And y'all have a great week, too.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you too.
All right, y'all. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking through that wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much.
Man, I feel like I'd be wanting to have these conversations regardless of whether you guys were there. But the fact that you are, and the fact that you're contributing, it means a lot, and I really appreciate it.
Yep.
Jake and I are really having a wonderful time reaching out to people like Bethlehem and Dan Whitener and Randy Green and Adam Ezra and Ellis Paul and Justin Dordell, and we've got
Next week on the podcast is Karina Smith, also from the Adam Ezra group.
We're announcing that. We're so the first season of the podcast is going to be 12 episodes. This is the 5th episode. So we've got 7 more to go, and then we'll take a little break as we get ready for the second season. But as Jake said earlier, we're running the lounge stage. We're running the lounge stage right here. It's going to be run off our Twitch channel. And
Twitch.tv/Tribal Mischief.
Yes, thank you, Jake. We're doing our best to put together a really wonderful night of music. We want to thank Zoe Mulford, Scott Cook, and The Promises Hope, who were part of our first online concert ever last Thursday. We really wanted to sort of proof of concept to make sure that we could make this work and make it really feel like a interactive real concert, and the feedback we got was really fantastic, and we want to thank anyone here that happened to be over there. It was really really wonderful to hear from you and get that feedback, and it sort of empowered us to make the decision to walk forward with this larger scope project. But we've got some fantastic people coming up. We're just about finalizing all of the guests, which is funny because for our first 2 or 3 weeks it was kind of like, who's next week? Oh no, I don't know. Let's figure it out.
Right up until about 3 days before the podcast.
But we really, really, just thank you guys for coming along. If you can hit that follow button, it's under Jake's.
Right here.
Right under his microphone.
Right
actually.
about here. Yeah.
We would just really appreciate it. And as we said earlier, the best thing you can do for artists, the best thing you can do for content creators anywhere is just share it. If you like it, if you thought this was a great conversation, share it with people. Just say, hey, I was part of something tonight that was really meaningful. You might want to check it out. That is better than anything.
We'll have this conversation up on YouTube in the next week or so. We'll have it on your favorite podcasting platforms. Find us on your podcasting platforms. We're up on Stitcher. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. The full videos, I think, on YouTube. Ethan, full videos, is that?
Yep.
Is that right? And share them. I was just chatting with Adam Ezra yesterday, actually. He came back from California with his fiancée, Allie, and he did 2 shows yesterday and then did another one today. he averages 500 to 600 viewers on his daily live stream. Today was day number 115. But he told me the largest viewership that he's had of one of the videos, 70,000 views. And so as we want to see you all here, and you get to interact with us, which whatever that's worth, but you get to interact with our amazing guests, which is really what it's about. But also, please find us on YouTube. We're working on getting enough subscriptions to be youtube.com/Tribal Mischief. We're hoping that happens soon.
Soon might be pushing it, but we'll do what we can. I believe the requirement is 1,000 subscribers. So
1,000. Yeah. I thought it was 100. My mistake. Maybe not.
If you all can make that happen this year,
yep. So,
I will buy you all a cake. I will do it.
Thank you all for sticking around. We've been at this for over 2 hours. For the record, I haven't mentioned it tonight. This evening, Jake is drinking E.H. Taylor Small Batch bottled in bond bourbon. I don't know what Ethan's drinking tonight.
I'm not, because I woke up at 3 a.m. to go shoot sunrise in Rockport, Massachusetts. Actually, Celine was in the channel earlier. I don't know if she's still there, but she was in the channel, and I shot a time lapse this morning that I will share right now. You can see how successful my 3 a.m. wake up so I could get pictures of the sun.
Nope. Getting lighter. Getting lighter. Here comes this. No?
There comes the fog.
There's no. I really hope you don't sound surprised in saying that.
Oh,
Dan said mathematically that's 1,000 cakes. Dan, I hope that at some point, as we said earlier in the podcast, probably 2 to 3 years from now, we'll have 1,000 views when people go back and start binging this podcast. A dozen seasons in.
Hey, if it happens, I will find a way to get those cakes. We'll hopefully. Now I feel pretty confident, but by the time it happens, it will be post-COVID. Maybe we'll just throw a party.
Ethan will just bake them all and deliver them. I think he just offered to deliver them.
I did. Why not? So a couple other things to share. One of which is friends of the podcast and sort of partnering with us in some new ways that we're developing with them. Folk Music Notebook will be live broadcasting the lounge stage on their radio show with Ron Olesko. Thursday, July 30th. So if you want to see all of our smiling faces, come here. If you just want to listen to us on the way somewhere, you can listen over there. And we're going to be doing some cross promotion with him and his folks, and he's going to help plug us over there. We have started merchandise, and I actually have some of that merchandise arriving. One of the pieces actually arrived today. I'm pretty jazzed about it. Nice. But we're sort of looking at new things to develop, and if anyone has any ideas, let us know. Drop us a line. I think Bethlehem gave us like 7 different shirt ideas.
So many quotes, really all the quotes.
But we just anything you guys can do, anything that we can do to just sort of help us all feel more together. We're game for. Just let us know. Yep. Thank you.
Next Sunday, same internet time, same internet channel, twitch.tv/Tribal Mischief. Find us on tribalmischief.com and facebook.com/Tribal Mischief Productions.
I am Ethan Baird. He is Jake Bush on accordion. Thank you guys so much for coming, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
Have a good one.